Oh, Rosemary, I'll never forget her when we went down to her house to go for our walk one morning. She came out, she had a couple of minutes before. She came out smiling and said, I can see, I can see.
Welcome, and this is one of several talks on Hudson. If you have been to these before, this will be different. The geography is the same areas, but we've dug up a lot of new slides and things to talk about. But before we get into this, I think as you all know, hopefully, this is Hudson's 150th anniversary, technically known as Sasquatch. Yes, something like that. And we'll have occasion to talk a little bit about that. This is one in a series of activities. What do you want? More? You want me to eat the mic? Oh, Christ. Well, I can't hit people with this if I do that. Okay. This is one in a series of activities this year. If this is the 150th, when was Hudson established? 1866. 1966, 50 years ago, was the 100th. And by the way, I think as some of you know, we just dug up the time capsule. What a disappointment. We dug up a box on Liberty Park, which if you don't know, we will point out a little bit, and it was full of water. And in the box were newspapers, which presumably after 30 or 40 years or whatever number had turned into kind of a mush. We could tell they were newspapers, but not a lot more than that. And we also came up with a tape. Now, 50 years ago, we didn't have videotapes, but we had audio tapes. And so it went off, and we're still waiting to see who said what on the audio tape. But at any rate, the rest of the activity is going to be much more exciting, and hopefully you will enjoy this. Now, before we launch in, I did want to show you this, a committee. Of course, there's always a committee. This is a government function. And we are selling a variety of items, I think, as some of you know, and hopefully might even have. I'm not used to these things. One of them, how do I hold it up? One of them is a medallion, a rather very nice pewter medallion. There are T-shirts. Oh, yes. Thank you, Janice. Yeah, nice T-shirts, different sizes. There is a button right here. And the thing that may be of interest to many of you is there's a cookbook put together by Linda Galoni, long-running director of recreation. Really great gal. The cookbooks are here. They're on the table. And a lot of very interesting and very nice recipes. Okay. Yes. There you go.
I'll be Vanna White.
Thank you, Vanna. Do we have to stand together? It's what? Okay. All right. Enough of that. As I said, this is one of three. And this is on the dam and Washington Street and the Washington Street Bridge, which is in the news, I think, as you know, because there's something supposed to happen to it. And at the end, I'll comment on our best guess what the state is up to. One never knows. Okay, I think we're good. Hopefully, before we get to slide 397, we will have ended. All right. Is this going to work? No, don't start getting funny on me now. This is my clicker to advance, so. There we go. Okay, a river, a dam, and a town. The second one will be on Wood Square, or better known as the Rotary, and our last talk will be on Main Street. So tonight we're looking just at the river and the dam. Sorry. Okay, and of course we have to give credits. An awful lot of people have helped put this together. These talks are sponsored by the Historical Society, which is in the Mill Building on Broad Street, just before you go over the dam on the right. Historical Society with lots of materials. We're open 2 to 4 on Tuesday afternoons and 10 to noon on the first Saturday of the month. And we're delighted to have people come up. We have lots of stuff, and we're always looking for people to come and help. There are quite a lot of materials that are available. And I've just listed some here. I actually have the books. I'll try to show them to you a little bit later. These especially the Images of America series, which some of you may know. They're a standard series across the country. There are thousands of these books. They're picture books, in effect, with a very brief caption, but they are all history of the various towns. Really neat. They are in print and they are available. There are really 3. One is called Hudson's, the second one on Postcard of Hudson, both done by Lou Halprin, who is in the back doing the recording tonight. And there is one specifically on the Armory, done by Bill Verdon. Lots of other materials. So, okay, well, let's get started. This is a topo map of Hudson. And here is the, let me do it the other way around. Here's the river. This is downtown Hudson. And the river, the Assabet, flowing left to right, right to left. To your right, yes, going that way, downstream. There is the dam, right there. And that's a question. Can you see, we are on the map. Can you see where we are here in this building? There you go. Bruce's Pond directly out behind, and you can see the old Central Mass line and Bruce's Pond. To orient you, the Larkin would be right in here, the old Larkin lumber. Okay, what I want to do, since we're talking about the river in Hudson, is take you on a little tour and have you try to guess where we are on the river. Anybody take a stab at this? Yep, this is 495. Well, that's easy. The real question is, are we above the 495 or below it as the river flows? Turns out we're above it. Directly behind, well, not directly, but behind me would be River Road. If you go far enough, you can actually see it from here. Now, interestingly, this little fella, you can actually quite easily see if you take Brigham Street, going to Solomon Pond Mall, you come to that left angle turn before you go into Marlboro, Berlin, whatever it is over there. This is what is called at Four Bridges. And you can walk to it. There's actually the power line. Light and Power has a cut right to the river at that point. And there used to be 4 bridges here. The bridges are long gone now. All right, where are we? Chapin Road Bridge. Yep. Look at this photo. Oh, you know what I meant to say? Sorry. My students would always ask, what would the question they would always ask? All students in the world ask this question. Yes, and will it be on the test? Exactly. And the answer is yes, of course there's a test. Why do you think we're doing this? Okay, this one you know, if you know Hudson at all. Yeah, and the bridge is technically called the Taylor Memorial Bridge. We're looking upstream or down? Downstream, so Wood Park on the right, and on the other side, Portuguese Club. Yeah. Apsley Park. Okay, I caught this guy a couple of years ago. If you wondered how these things ever get airborne, it's an effort. This picture I took about 2 weeks ago. And if you're wondering where we are between the last one and here. Where are we? Yep, we're behind the armory, the tank building, and between the two is McDonald's. If we went 100 feet down the river and took that same picture, what would be between the two buildings? Nope. No. Nope, we're not that far down yet. In other words, if we were over here, looking between the buildings, the Hudson House, the new Hudson House, which, by the way, is going to open, despite what you may have heard. Heard that today. Well, it was the Hudson House. It was open a little bit, and then one of the partners supposedly got sick, but apparently he's better, and it is going to open and stay open. Okay, what are we looking at? Yes. Whoops, sorry. Library, fire station, and so forth. And if you look very closely up there at the windows, I believe I can see a scowling Ralph Warner waving at us. And if you're an old timer, you know what I mean. All right, what are we at? Robinson's on the right, and the gas station on the left, and straight ahead, you do not want a kayak because it's the dam, and of course that's the Washington Street Bridge. Where am I standing? Under the bridge. And I'll show you pictures of the bridge a little later. Actually, I kayaked up to there a couple of years ago. Okay, back a little further. There, of course, is the bridge and the dam. And on the upper left, up here, Robinson's. Okay. The old Thomas Taylor. And that makes this which bridge? Well, we got all kinds of guesses here. This is the Houghton Street Bridge. All right, you may or may not know this. This is the canal from Bruce's Pond, and this is called the Tannery Brook because there was a tannery here, and we'll talk about that, not this session, but in a future one. And this is Salusi Park. A little further down. O'Neill's Crossing, yep, old term for this. Most of us simply call it the Main Street Bridge. By the gas station on Main Street. What are we looking at? Whispering Pines, and that makes this bridge the Well, yeah, but it's been a while since the railroad was here. And that's Main Street Bridge from the other side. What am I standing on? The old railroad bridge, which you can see from Main Street. And Whispering Pines in the back. One of Hudson's bridges. Any guesses to which this one is? This is Cock Street. This one is and has been on the state repair queue for at least 20 years. When they talk about rebuilding the country, this is the kind of stuff that's gotten left in the dust. And of course, we built the fire station just on the other side of this. This carries an awful lot of traffic. I won't even ask. Okay, moving on. This is another view. This is an aerial view of downtown. And I'm going to pop up a bunch of numbers. Just sing out what they show. What's number one? Washington Street Bridge. The Rotary. Oh, these guys are good. McDonald's. Armory. Well, a little hard to tell. Fire station, library. And 7 is the road. South Street. Okay. The river. The mill pond. Actually, in the old days, referred to as Brigham's Mill Pond for reasons that we'll see. Okay. Can't do any history without a little timeline. We'll be real quick. We've been here for quite a long time. The river and the dam, let's see, 16, 17, 300 and a lot of years. And we'll say a little more about that. Because there was a dam there, then the town of Marlborough built a road to the dam. Took almost 100 years before we had like a store or anything developed there. Daniel Stratton, Lorenzo Stratton started what is considered really the shoe business here, which has been Hudson's main business very early. Fitchburg Railroad came here on its way to where? To where? Where did the Fitchburg? Nope, went to, well, depending on how you do it, but this actually was a spur, went to Marlborough. But it came, oh, okay. Almost 15 years before the Civil War? Very early. Okay, building at Wood Square, the end of the Civil War. Trowbridge will figure prominently later. Hudson incorporates 1866, just after the Civil War. And probably one of Hudson's main events was the Big Fire. Okay, well, we're talking about the dam. We can be real quick about this. If you, any title examiners here? Book 13 is figured real early because if you go to the registry now, they're up on, I don't know, 20 or 30,000 books, and it records every deed in the state, or just in Middlesex County. Okay, well, when you go there, this is what you find. Wonderful stuff. We will try to translate this for you, especially the first, just the first part. And they've got all this really neat stuff. It was so early, it was Massachusetts Bay, all of this sort of thing. But the key part is this. And if you remember your math word problems, oh, I hated those. Well, this is kind of a word problem because from this description, we were able to create this little sketch. And here is the river. Here is the Wood Square in effect now. And if you do this with the numbers that were given in the description, Washington Street is about there. And the original dam, which is not the one you see now, that's not what they built originally, some kind of brush dam or whatever, approximately in that location.
Why
So-
do they need a dam?
Why did they need a dam? For power? To do what? For a grist mill? Well, probably power the machines, although it's not clear from those buildings that they were really water powered, except for the Robinson one. Sawmills, grain and saw, lumber. Okay, here's a very early map. This is a manuscript, which essentially means one of a kind. We do have this in the society. We've had a good high quality scan. Most of our pictures and all of the maps have been scanned, so we have those available if somebody's got a real interest in a particular map. But notice here is the river across the bottom. And there are some names, Barnard's Mills. Now this is 1801, 1701, it's only 100 years after the original settlement here. If we zoom in, we can see here from what this says, by the way, is the road from Marlborough to Lancaster. And all we have to do now is to find this oak tree, another one here, and we know exactly where we are. But this clearly will become 85 later on. This will become Main Street, that's probably Forest Avenue, and that will be Central Street. That was very early, 1801. Here we are 30, 40 years later with one of the early maps of Marlborough. Somebody drew that line in. But the early map, this is downtown Marlborough. This will be Route 20 later on. This swamp area will be dammed up and become
My Lake. Fort Meadow.
Fort Meadow. No Lake Boone, that doesn't happen for quite a long time. And we want to zoom in on that area right there. And if we do, we can begin to see some rather familiar sorts of things. Here's what we now call Pope's Hill. It's had a variety of names over the years. Here is the river coming up here, looping around, and this is the downtown bridge, Washington Street. This will be Main Street. This is Washington Street. And you can see this going off to the left. That's probably River Road, Central Street, 62, and Lincoln Street. This will be Hog Brook coming down through Tripp's Pond. And this will be Danforth Brook, which gets dammed up to become Bruce's Pond right behind us, and then joins. This will later become Tannery Brook, but that's way in the future. Here's a map. Somebody obviously made it up. It didn't come from 1853, but the key thing, and we'll see this again when we look at Wood Square, is there's no square. There's no intersection roundabout as we know it now. But here's the dam: sawmill, wood mill, wheelwright shop, and we begin to have the beginnings of industry around the dam. Interesting things going on here. Here is Tannery Brook. And notice, this is Main Street, obviously, but notice we have a pond below Main Street, about where many of us would remember Aubuchon's being, long before then. And that's where the tannery will later become. In fact, there was a tannery there. Okay, here we are, 1875, 65, 10 or 15 years after the Civil War. And it's pretty much the layout as you see it now. You can recognize most of the streets, a few things missing. But here we are right here. We're going to focus in on these buildings here in a moment. Wonder why this was called Wood Park. Wood Square, that we will talk about later. And I will ask you the question again. Where are we here now on this map? In fact, this building shows on this map. What's right out behind us? Bruce's Pond, called the Mill Pond. And there we are. See the building? All by itself. No post office, no Boys and Girls Club. However, no. Pardon? This building, Brigham's home actually, was here. There was a church between us and the Unitarian Church, which is gone. We'll talk about that when we look at Main Street stuff. But at any rate, here we are. This is our focus right here. Okay, getting down a little closer to detail, here is Washington Street, and here is the river. And this is 1877. This is quite a long time ago, but notice all four corners are occupied by industrial buildings. Here's the dam, pretty much in its present location in relation to the road. Grist Mill and Shoes, name of Brigham shows. Brigham Shoes here. Planing and sawmill over on this side. And over here, that's storage. You can't quite see it, but that was another industrial building that we will see some pictures of in a moment. So here's an old picture. Some other photographic character decided to stand in the river too to take this picture, apparently. But as far as the the bridge is concerned, it looks just like the bridge that is there now. And that bridge probably dates from the Civil War. We don't know. They weren't very good about telling us when they built things. These buildings are, of course, a little different now. We are below the bridge. And that's pretty much what it looks like now. But it's, except for the buildings, the same bridge. Okay, here's a very interesting picture. We're on, what do they call it here? Oh, this is Mount Bellevue. Well, it's Pope's Hill, a variety of other names. But this was back in the days when you could go to the top of Pope's Hill and see downtown. Many of you will remember the famous cross that you could see from Wood Square, which is still there, you just can't see it. And if you go up to the cross, you can't see downtown either because the trees have grown up. But this was at the time when land was cleared a lot more than it is now, so we have these wonderful views. So this blue line is the best I can do for the river to kind of orient you as to where we are, looking down. Number of very interesting buildings, almost everything in that picture except for the stuff way back here maybe is all gone now. So let's look around. Here we have the School Street School, long gone. Here we have the South Street tenements. You'll see more pictures of these a little bit later, but just to get them all together in one spot. Wood Square is going to be right about here. I will mention this house right here now. We won't talk about it, but that house is where the time capsule was dug up. The house no longer exists, but what's there now? Nope. Liberty Park. It's a park. It's where the statue is. Let's see. Yeah, I think, pretty sure these are Pope's livery stables up here in the back. The dam is down behind these buildings. Notice this building here particularly. You'll see a picture of that a little bit later, and it may be hard then to place it, but that's where it is now. Here is what is called a bird's eye view. These are absolutely fabulous, the skill that we have long since lost. This is from probably the 1870s, 1880s, and these were not drawn from a photo. They were not drawn from a balloon. They were drawn by skilled artists who did these so-called bird's eye views. You are as if you're over, I'm going to guess, St. Michael's Church, looking down towards Wood Square here. And all of the buildings are in perspective. And they're actually quite accurate because we do have photos of a number of these buildings. And they match very easily. A lot of these were made, a skill that we have long since lost. Well, here is the river, here is the dam, and the river going off towards the left. So let's zoom in a little bit more. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at this set of buildings here, since our focus is the dam. The next one is going to be that perspective. So as if you're over School Street Pub, looking down towards Wood Square, or the dam. See how we transferred? We're sort of turned around here a little bit. So Wood Square is up here. Here's the dam. Here is the Washington Street Bridge. And here are the industrial buildings. And what we're going to do is work around and take a look at each one of those. The first one we're going to look at is the GGC, the Goodyear Gossamer Company. Not a term that we use much anymore, but I was thinking about this. When I was a kid, we had galoshes, which were kind of high rubber boots. They were sort of rubberized, that kind of thing. Down east, rain slickers, you know, clothing that is essentially rubberized, probably plastic now. That's really what Gossamer was. Gossamer goes away, and Goodyear is the name we most associate with this now. And that building is the Goodyear Gossamer Company. We don't need to go through this, but this is dated 1892, business transaction, considerable interest. Loring Apsley purchased the Goodyear Gossamer Company for $1 million, president of the manufacturers, embracing the country, president of the Board of Trade, director of the bank, Board of Washington, interests of the rubber clothing trade. His friends are not surprised at his latest move. And of course, he then subsequently moves to Apsley Street. And that's this building right here. So you can sort of see maybe where we're going with this. Here we are on the Washington Street Bridge. And actually, we're across the street now. This picture, interestingly, was to show this guy, was to show the bucket, the ladder bucket. But I was interested because of the building behind it. And this building was the Malay last factory. Not the first one, but the last factory. And a last is what? Not much we do now any day. Yeah, there's forms for shoes. And there was a big last factory in that location. That's what's there now. You can decide whether there's an improvement. Yes, there was.
That's the factory you just said.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And
Well, hang on. You'll see a little bit later what happens here. This is a very interesting picture because nothing you see in it helps to place it, except that this is the bridge right here. The Washington Bridge is right there. So we're standing looking towards what is called Nobility Hill, where the nobility of Hudson lived. So we're behind us is Wood Square. So we're on the Wood Square side of the dam, looking across the bridge and up the street. If you want to compare it, we're going to look at these buildings in a minute. If you want to compare it now, the only way I could do this was the road. ones up there. And as I say, I'll leave it all to you and your own whether you think this is an improvement in our built environment. Okay, the Brigham factory. This factory wasn't built in 1837. 1857 it was built, not 37, which is about when he started. He started in the 1830s. Interesting picture because you can see Pope's Hill off to the right, over the shoulder. And here is the bridge, the Washington Street Bridge there, with the last factory across the street at the McDonald's site. And they made shoes, lots of shoes. Brigham was very famous for inventing a pegging machine. Before that, they used nails, and to try to hold the shoe together, it was a challenge. He made a number of innovative developments in the shoe business. Like all of the big shoe companies, they had offices in Boston as well. That's what's there now. It's easy to think when you drive through that what you see now has always been there. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Okay. Moulton's Carriages. Remember that little building I told you to keep an eye on our bird's eye view? Whoops, yeah, there we are. Back here, and yeah, this was the one we showed before. It's 1862. This is the height of the Civil War. It's this building here that we're looking at, because we just looked at that one. That's Moulton's shoe. Interesting. He worked on the carriages on the upper floor, so in order to be able to get the horses hauling the carriages up, you had to do that. And it went in the Great Fire, but he moved. And actually, the building he moved to still exists. That's where he was, okay? Park Street, the apartments. And then yep. This is after the fire, yeah. So, yeah, 100 or better. Okay. Washington Street Bridge. You can sort of envision where we are. Here is the bridge itself. So the dam is directly behind Brigham's factory here. Way over in the right corner, I had a different picture. Moulton's Carriages were up behind that, up on the river. And you'll be pleased to know that you don't have to eat whole corn now. You can go down there and he'll grind it for you. This is dated 1866. Same year Hudson was incorporated. And that's pretty much the where we are there. Here's a somewhat different view. This is from the 1950s. Yeah, some of you familiar with cars will peer at this, so I just said 50s. Somewhere in through there is Harry Flood's Texaco. But we have this building, this hulk over here, which we'll get to in a moment. The question is, where is this picture taken from? Well, it was a bit of a challenge, but due to Jim Quinn, he managed to get us up into what I believe is the perspective from which this picture was taken. So I think the corner here is, nope, from here. This was taken, Jimmy, was second or third floor of the Cochrane building in facing Wood Square. And of course, here's the gas station, here is Robinson's, and the Armory off. Okay, we were on the other side. That was the building we just looked at, where you can get your corn ground if you're wondering where to go. You can go there. We want to look at this building here, the Hudson Counter Company. My God, do they need a whole building just to count? What's a counter? Not that thing, you know, not where you put dishes on next to the sink. It's a part of a shoe. And which part? It's the heel part. It's the back part. So if you have walking shoes, you don't have much of a counter. Now, a little bit later, this of course is the Armory, 1913, we have a fire. Most of these towns have fires. This was a big one. And there it is as it's raging. And behind the counter company was a separate building that was the Hudson Batting Company, batting for stuffing of mattresses and that sort of packing, that sort of stuff. This is the same event, and I'm looking at these poor girls here and thinking, you know, just looking at fire is horrifying in and of itself, but what do you think they're really thinking? This is 1913. The jobs are going up in smoke. Which brings up the question, when did unemployment insurance come in? Who's our labor lawyer? Nobody here. Okay, I had to go look it up, so don't feel so bad. 1932, 3 years before Social Security, in the height of the Depression. Things were really bad. And where, by the way? It was not a federal program to begin with. It was a state program, and it came out of Wisconsin. All right, that's all I can tell you. I'm sure Scott Walker out there is probably grinding his teeth. Okay, but that's pretty much what's there now. Okay, looking back, this of course is Robinson's. Let's see the background and history of Robinson's. Some of you remember in the 50s and 60s, it was Grant's. Very interesting story about the Grant story. Go look it up sometime. It's really interesting. There aren't any stores, but there is the Grant Foundation now, which is still existing. And that was succeeded by, you'll remember Robinson's. It looks a little different now. This was the 70s. I have to thank Dave Bonazzoli for this shot. And now, that's what's there now. Okay, a building you can be excused for not recognizing. This disappeared in about 1910. This is the Marshall Wood House. And Wood as in Wood Square, although Marshall Wood was the brother of Solon Wood, as we'll see later, to be replaced by the Armory. Now, the next shot's interesting, and it'll take us a minute to go through it. This is a fascinating picture. It was taken when the, well, I guess these would be called doughboys, although these guys, this was before we got into the war and World War I. When did we get in? When did we get in? 17. This is before then. But we did have some fun down on the Mexican border in 15 and 16. Doing what? Chasing Pancho Villa. Why? Ah. Oh. Oh, we have an historian, yes. Blackjack Pershing went down there, and he chased Pancho Villa all around northern Mexico. He didn't really care whether he caught him. Why did he do it? Training, because they knew the war was coming. Now, one other bit of trivia is why was Pancho Villa so considered such a person we wanted to catch? Yes, there was that. There was a small town in southern New Mexico called Columbus, New Mexico. Still there, camped there many times. Lived in Arizona for a long time, familiar with this area. And these guys were sent down there because Columbus, New Mexico was the only town pre-Twin Towers where the U.S. land was invaded by a foreign army. They actually came in, killed a bunch of people in Columbus. Okay, but at any rate, we show this picture because of what's in the background. Now, you know where you are. I mean, I think all of you are familiar enough with Hudson. We're standing probably on the steps of the Armory looking down across the street. So let's look at the buildings here. They're all gone. From right to left, this here is one of the South Street tenements that you saw before. There were 2 tenement blocks, I think each about 20 apartments, and they were there by the Civil War. Nobody knows when they were built. They came down in 1935. You can probably guess what's there now. You'll see a picture of that. This building here, this is South Street, by the way. This building here was a dwelling, a house. Whether it was rented, who knows. Let's hold this building for a moment. This one that says signs will later become, quite a long time ago. Oh, come on, come on. Can you? Broad's Garage, which is now McDonald's. Okay, so that leaves us this guy here, which sort of looks like a church. It's not. Tuck, it's the fire station. That's the view now. Okay? Okay, there it is. This housed the Eureka pumper, which was a big deal. How are we doing on time? Oh, geez. Okay, and that station is approximately there in the left half of what was the Harvest Cafe, now the Hudson House. Because the right-hand side would have been that dwelling, right on the very corner, where if you're coming out South Street, anybody tried to make a right to go across the dam from South Street? I hope you have a Mini Cooper or a smart car. It's not going to get any better, by the way. Okay. Well, there is the Eureka hose. Here is the building behind. Sorry, we got to zip along here. Here in 1916, here is the hose house here. Here's the dwelling on the corner, South Street tenements. Here is what is called wheelwright, making the transition from carriages and horse-drawn to automobiles. And then here, the Millet Last Factory becomes the Novelty Paper Box Company, very likely boxes for shoes. And then across the street, we don't talk about it now, we will later, is the Electric Railway Freight Building. It's still there, but it's been turned. And what is it now? It's the VFW. Right on the corner behind the gas station. Because the trolley to Marlboro crossed right here. Okay, here we are in 1929. We've now become Broad's Garage. So there's a persistence in the landscape of the buildings. And in trying to trace industrial history, it can be a real challenge because you'll have the same building, different name, different owner. And that becomes a problem. A sad picture, sorry, Broad's Garage. Sorry. Okay, we're moving right along here. This is a postcard. Let me just tell you, this is the town hall right here. So we're back up on Pope's Hill, Mount Bellevue sometimes. A somewhat later view of the back of this huge shoe factory. Has at least a half a dozen names. This, by the way, some of you will remember because it lasted long past that building. Notice the railroad cars. Okay, there was a spur track along what is essentially South Street now. Here's a map. Here's the river at the bottom. Here's the factory. And as we knew it, it became ultimately the Ascutney Shoe Factory. Been there a long time. This was an early plan. I mean, look at this, almost 1890. That was the sketch. Always a little change, but slip between the lip and the cup. That was another, that's what it looked like a little bit later. And then we knew it as that building. And what happened to it? Oh my God, some of you will remember. Spectacular fire, 1971. And now, parking lot. Okay, just a couple overviews. We're coming up to that quiz, so pay attention here. Okay, here are the South Street tenements. The Armory will be over here. Of course, that was long after the Armory after this. Here's the School Street Schoolhouse. Here's a map of that. There are the tenement buildings with the coal sheds behind. We looked at this a moment ago. This is now the Hudson Fabric Company. That was the counter company. Actually, it was the fabric company, then later the counter. The engine house, and so forth here. That's where the South Street tenements were located. Here is the Armory over here to the left. School Street Schoolhouse. I will say I think this is probably an improvement. One of the few where the buildings now look better than they did then. View of downtown, quite a bit open. We'll have much more to say about this later. Further down, Broad Street is over here to the right. Main Street is here in the back. We're going to skip over that. This is kind of interesting. You know, environmentalists are pervasive these days. One of the things that has been often talked about is to breach dams and let free flow of the water, fish, and so forth. So the Corps of Engineers did a study here of what it would look like if they breached the dam. In other words, did away with the dam. So through what is called photorealism, they take a photo and then kind of play with it. Here we're standing on the dam, standing on the bridge, looking at the dam, looking upstream. Robinson's on the left, gas station on the right. So if you breached it and took it away, there's a possibility. But there is one huge problem with this picture. And what's the problem? Well, yeah, although I don't know if they could use it or would it even be worth it. There isn't that much here. No, but it's in the picture. It's not a use of the... Dave? Yeah. The water's going the wrong way. Because we know if you're standing on the bridge looking at the dam, you're looking upstream. And in this one, you're looking down. Well, that's just a snipe. Okay, well, here's an aerial. Yeah, well, whoever did the photo was obviously not from here. So that's a thought about what the river might look like. So without these dams, you really couldn't kayak. You really couldn't canoe. Because rather than having a river, what we have is a series of lakes connected by streams. And of course, that's true for all of these rivers, all of the New England rivers. Okay. Just a little bit about this. Washington Street, Route 85, like Main Street, Route 62, is a state road. Anything that carries a number is a state road. That means it's totally state jurisdiction. That's the downside. The good side is it's their dime. Well, it's our dime, but they pay for it. The real problem is getting in the queue, getting in the top of the queue. There is a plan to redo the bridge. This has been in the works for a while. This, by the way, is why Broad Street and Main Street in Houghton have been redone. Because if you shut down Washington Street, how do you get across? And those are going to be the main passageways. So the thinking is it's going to take 2 construction seasons, 16, 17. Not sure they're going to meet that. Might be 17, 18, but it'll be 2 seasons. At some point, I thought early, but it may be actually during the later part, they will close down, and they will literally, the bridge is going to totally go away, completely redo it, which is sort of a shame because I'll show you what it looks like underneath. And when that begins, who knows? Stay tuned. So this is the arch, and that's been there very likely since the Civil War. They knew how to do this. It's a 3-arch bridge. This is interesting. The dam is just to your left. Here is the bridge itself. But notice this. We got granite block, fieldstone, some more fieldstone, concrete. It's quite a mix. And here is the steel decking here. Okay. All right. Anybody awake? We lost anybody yet? Now, I cheat a little bit in using the term bridge. Oh, somebody's been paying attention. You wouldn't know that driving across it. (1953) 13. Oh, okay. Those guys are good. Patriot ambulance.
What's his name's brother?
Yeah, what's his name's brother? Very good, Dick. Which house? The one you're in.
Oh, this one.
Okay, I think we're done. That's all right, just throw money.